Don't scare us.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will the clerk please read the statement?
This is the meeting of the Township Council for Monday, June 24, 2019. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 3, 2019, and posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Roll call.
Councilmember Wu.
Here.
Councilmember Ferreri.
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Here.
Councilmember Allberger.
Here.
Council President Bergen.
Here. Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So in order to move things around a little bit and be able to allow you to go on with your lives, can you hear? No. Is the volume on? Can you hear now? Okay. Anyway, I have a short presentation, and what will happen is then we'll probably, if the council's in agreement, we will probably maybe have some council discussion and then open it to the public for the ordinance and then go right to the ordinance. Try to move that up to the beginning of the meeting rather than have you wait till the end of it. So. And just be careful that nobody trips over you, just in case. So I'd first like to start off by saying there's been quite a bit of misinformation coming out. You know, we've had, council members have had several phone calls, a few emails, but sometimes when information is put on social media, it becomes a bit distorted. So the only thing I'm bringing you here tonight are the facts. And the facts is how they were presented to the council. So, and I've distributed some of the GMAX test reports, because what we can do as a council is go by the information that's provided to us. What I'd like to start off with, and this is Resolution 1997. The title of this resolution, which is a little difficult to read there, is authorizing engineering, design, and preparation of contract documents for turf field replacements at the Maple Grange Community Park. This was on our agenda on March 25th. So on March 25th, the council was presented with some information, no test reports, just facts. Or just the information, but none of the facts. And this is how the vote went. I gave a brief explanation of resolutions 1989 through 1997. Councilmember Allberger made the motion. Councilmember Van Tassel seconded the motion. The roll call vote was taken, and this was to spend $10,000 on the engineering and the design for these fields. Sandra Ohms, yes. Patrick Carreri, yes. Mark Van Tassel, yes. John Allberger, yes. Jean Murphy, yes. So on March 25th, this council was in total agreement of pursuing the replacement of these fields. What we didn't have in our hands at that time were the test results that were presented by Sports Care. This is just describing the consent agenda that I just read and the votes. And all of this is online, can be verified. Some of the reports that you're holding right there, it says report information in that first, I think it's the first green line. Oh, it's the second green line. It's difficult to read. Read sport information. And what Sport Care follows is they follow the ASTM, which is the American Society for Testing and Materials. So that's how, those are the standards that they use for testing these fields. So each of these test results that you have, you'll see it repeated. But two of the sentences there, it says the GMAX tests were performed on the fields in accordance with ASTM 1936-10/F355 standards, which requires a GMAX under 200 for safety. The bottom green line, it says Sport Care, it says the report results. You'll see it says on each of these reports, the field tested in this report has been verified to be in compliance and meets the requirements for play based on the specifications as referenced in ASTM 1936/F355. And I think some of those may be highlighted for you. You'll only see this once on the screen. When they do the test, there's 10 drop locations. And as it reads, in accordance with ASTM 1936, at each location, 3 drops are made. The second and third drops at each location are averaged to develop the GMAX value for each drop point. The ASTM 1936/F355 requires a GMAX of less than 200 for safety. So first on the recap, we'll see on March 13th, there were tests performed on all 3 fields. And this was prior to any maintenance being performed. So you'll see the GMAX rating for the upper soccer field range from 133.5 to 192.5. So at the 192, you're starting to creep up to that 200. But when they average all of the areas there, they come up, and this is how the test is performed. They average all of those 10 drop areas, and they come up with the average of 167.9. Now remember, this was prior to the Sport Care maintenance. This is just showing you the sheets that I handed out. So I just pulled off some of the information off of it, but this is showing you the field, the date, and the rating at the bottom. This gives you actually, and this is not in your packet, but maybe the mayor would like to post all of these results online, because if they could be posted on our website, so you could actually see the results of all the drop areas and numbers that are equated to those drop areas, how they arrived at that 167.9. Next, we move on to the middle soccer field. That one was done on the same date of March 13th, prior to the Sport Care maintenance. You'll see that the range went from 152.5 to 218, which said that that area was in failure. The overall GMAX of the field area was 176.6. So we are starting to approach that area of 200. 200 is a fail. Again, the sheet that you have in your hand, again, shows the field, the date, and the GMAX. This shows all the drop locations. Then we move on to the football field. Same day, prior to maintenance. They ranged from 105 to 147. You could see that. That area came in at 130. At 130, they didn't see the need for any repairs or any maintenance to be done by Sport Care. Well, I did not receive any other test results. Again, the form you've received. All the drop locations. Next, we move on to March 20th. These are the results after the sport care maintenance. The fields were closed, and I know that we had a budget meeting. Actually, we had a council meeting, so it's good because Councilmember Carreri was appointed to the council on March 11th. And I think at that meeting, we were informed that the fields were closed. So you could see that by March 20th, the results after the maintenance. So the upper soccer field, the report ranged from 123 to 167. Or I'm sorry, 123 to 162, with an overall Gmax in that field area of 137. The one that was performed on March 13th, I'm holding it, which you have in your hand, was 167.9. Now, when they do come in and test, they are not dropping those, they're not doing that in the exact same area. It may not be the exact location, but it's very close. It's within that range, because they are going to, from what I understand, to the goals, to the center, maybe on the sides, so there's certain locations. So you could see that after the maintenance, it dropped. Again, 200 is a fail. The report that you have in your hand, upper soccer field, date March 20th, and again, the overall score. Again, we have all the drop locations, how they came to that average. We move on to the middle soccer field. March 20th, 2019, results after sport care maintenance. That Gmax rating, it ranged from 126 to 164.5, with an overall Gmax of the field area of 141.4. Now that is the middle. So on March 13th, that Gmax total was 176.6. After the maintenance, 141.4. And like I said, if anybody else does not have this paperwork, I mean, I still have a few copies, or like I said, maybe they could be put on our website. Oh, you have a nice bunch there. Again, the document you're holding in your hands, middle soccer field, 320, the overall rating. The drop locations. Now we move on to May 9th. And on May 9th, I actually did question why they were done, and I was told by the gentleman from the firm, they wanted to make sure that the test results were holding. So on May 9th, again, there was no other maintenance performed that we're aware of. The average was 120.5 to 161.5, and that was on the upper soccer field. So that test, that came in at 137.55, actually a little bit lower than it did on March 20th, because on March 20th it came in at 137.9. But those are the variations you'll have, from what I'm told, because of the drop locations. A drop location can be higher or lower when they go back and they redo the test. So there you have the upper soccer field, 137.55. Upper soccer field, May 9th, overall rating, 10 drop locations. We go to the middle soccer field. Again, May 9th, the retest. The Gmax rating of this field tested, it ranged from 128.5 to 171.5. The overall Gmax of the field area is 143.6. So I'm just going back to see where it was on May 20th. So the middle soccer field on May 20th was 141.4. On May 9th, it grew to 143.6. Again, that's the document you have with the field and the date. Again, gives you the information that I've read to you. Drop locations. And this is my opinion. You know, when we started this, we were all on board, because what we were being told, the fields are closing, the field needs to be replaced, it's a liability. What happened was we were not being given the documents. Excuse me. We had requested them. We did receive these test results on April 23rd. You know, we're not saying that we'd like children to play on fields, or anybody, adults even use them, that are dangerous. But as a council, being tasked with voting on public money, when we are holding test results from the professional that the township hired, how do we make any other decision? How do I make a decision? How do I make a decision that I'm holding something that's a failure when I'm speaking to the professional, and as a matter of fact, it goes as far as this same company had this happen actually in Montclair. They postponed their replacements for 2 years. He did the same type of a maintenance on these fields. Yes, that's his business, but we've been hiring him all along. He's been coming in and doing this decompaction. Excuse me, let me finish my, no. This last document that I have here, I think that's the last one, yeah. This was actually, it's a 2-tier maintenance for the Vernon Township fields from Sport Care. Again, not the company that the council contacted, the company that the township hired. Sport Care will perform 2-tier maintenance to fields at Maple Grange Park to aid in the aggressive decompaction that is needed to keep the field in compliance with safety standards. The recommendation from the manufacturer was to repeat this process every 6 to 8 weeks until the field is replaced. This is in addition to the current maintenance schedule that is currently in place. Now, if we asked him, if they could come in and they could do one field, or they could do both fields. What he stated for this was 3, actually I have it in my email, 3 visits from now to the end of the year. If they came in and did 3 visits on those turf fields and did the decompaction, the 2-tier on all 3 fields, it would be $2,800 each visit for the 2 fields, not each. Just wanted to look through my notes here. Now, and that's, you know, what I, as a council member, what I wanted to do was put the factual information in everyone's hand, because this is what we're reading. This is what we have to stand by. You know, if a council member is up here and not reading what they're voting on, they don't belong here, you know. But like I said, unfortunately with social media, there's been a tremendous amount of information that's gone on and has come through, and the documents speak for themselves. Oh. Comments? Or
Yeah,
do you want to just open it?
No, I have, I went to the field today, and I was with John, I hope you don't mind. But these fields have no fiber left. There is no grass blade whatsoever on these fields. If you see where the goal was replaced, there's no comparison. I mean, there's blades, and I'm sure they're not as long as they should be, but the blade is like this compared to nothing. Like the black rubber beads that go in there, there's nowhere for the beads to go. I mean, I understand that maybe they have passed this, but, I mean, maybe next year it'll be bad, so then we're going through this whole thing over again. There's just no comparison to the replacement. If anybody wants to go down, they look where the first field, the replacement part, compared to the old field. I mean, it's just, you can't even groom it. I mean, there's just nothing to groom. It's just, that's all I really have to say, but, and, you know, who knows how long they're gonna last if you don't replace them. That's all.
Councilman Orr?
Second his motion.
I just have a couple of comments. First, you know, we were all in agreement to go ahead and spend the money on the engineering, take a look at it and see what needed to be done. The fields aren't all equal. The middle field, I believe, is in the worst condition based on what I see and based on the test results. And while all of this is going on, there's something else happening out in Washington State, and it's bothering me, and I need to bring it up. The field's toxicity on the materials being used today are being studied and questioned, and it's a great concern to me. Those studies, there are 2 scientific studies, they're pretty large, and they're both going to wrap up by the end of this year. What I would like to see is, I have already asked the mayor not to close the fields because the safety ratings say they are safe for play. But if we are looking at replacement, replace it on a staggered schedule. From what I heard, there is no great cost savings to replacing them all at the same time. I believe our CFO mentioned that the football field alone will be $525,000.
That was in the minutes, yeah.
And that's coming up soon as well. So we're talking about, you know, over $1 million for 3 fields, which I said earlier, last meeting, Maple Grange is a bright spot, and we need to do what we can to keep it open. If we stagger the field replacement over the course of 24 to 36 months, it gives us the advantage of both realizing some revenue that Mayor Shortway's creative solution on short-term rentals has proposed. So hopefully we can pay for the fields in cash. And also lets us take a look at the studies that come out so we're not putting in 3 fields that may, in the end, be toxic. And that's just my feeling and what I've heard.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been reading a lot online, and some states don't want to have turf fields.
Can you hear her?
No,
just-
sorry. Is this working? I don't know if this is working.
No, you were looking this way, so
Oh.
that's why I'm...
Well, I'm saying that some states are trying to prevent turf fields from being installed.
Speak out to us.
Well, I want my council
We can hear
members,
you. We can hear you.
you can hear me?
Yeah.
Again, there's some states that are trying to prevent additional turf fields being placed in their communities because of the same issue Patrick just discussed. And again, there is some studies going on now, and it would be nice to wait for those results. They could be obsolete.
Has he looked at the fields, or?
He hasn't looked at anything. And it's,
Those
I'll
pieces,
dispute that. but-
those pieces that have the short blades, can they be cut out and replaced?
It's the whole field.
Yeah.
It's the whole
The whole
field
field?
that has short blades.
However-
Other than the piece that was replaced.
However, the firm that was hired by the town states that they can come in and continue to do the maintenance while things like, and Councilmember Carreri and I discussed weeks ago, actually, we discussed briefly with Ms. Hamilton, some of the safety issues that were coming up with health issues. Because we're not sure what's going to happen. I mean, what happens if the town goes ahead and replaces fields at $1 million and they come out with studies saying they're cancer causing?
You're not, though.
Excuse me,
Refrain from calling out from the audience, trying to public comment is not correct.
but we still have the test results.
Could we limit the play on that, just to town?
No.
Can we limit the use of them? If
Calling out from the public, wait. You're out of order by calling out from the public. When public comment, you're welcome to come up and
Wait till
speak.
Sandy's done.
Stop exploiting the public sphere. It's all right.
continued use, can we limit the play on those turf fields to slow down the breakdown of the composition? Okay. Can we limit the play on them to try to get a longer life out of them? And just limit, excuse me.
They're 14 years old.
And just limit it to
Let
town.
her finish. Let you.
Okay, I'm just saying, they're 14 years old.
Yeah, but a date shouldn't be. I have a deck that was supposed to degrade 10 years ago, and it's still up and nice and strong. I mean, each one degrades differently, I would imagine. So the number I'm really not so concerned about. It's the safety, and our analysis is saying they're safe.
So, can I have, excuse me, you know, nobody can hear if you're yelling out from the audience. We're going to open it up to the public. If you have something to say, you'll have your chance to come up and say it. That's fine. But you'll have your chance to say what you'd like to. Can I have a motion? Well, actually, what I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to move our ordinance up.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we're going to be moving ordinance, what number is this, 1910. We'll be moving it up. It's a bond ordinance appropriating $2,038,668 and authorizing the issuance of $1,549,527 in bonds or notes of the township for various improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex. May I have a motion to open to the public for ordinance 1910?
Motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second from Wahlberger. Van Tassel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? If there's anyone from the public that would like to step forward and has a comment on ordinance 1910, please do so. And if somebody's coming from the back, if you could just clear the path so they have a clear path coming through, please.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Jennifer Hamilton, and I'm here again to speak on the replacement of the two top turf fields at Maple Grange Park. I want to start by thanking the Town Council for taking time out of their personal schedules to meet with me over the almost month since our last Town Council meeting. As someone who knows very little about the way local government works, I appreciate the time and energy they have put into reaching a solution on the fields. I would also like to thank the administration, both Harry and Michelle, for answering my endless list of questions around the turf pellets, turf grass, and so forth. I've learned more about turf fields than I ever cared to. And lastly, the members of each of the youth organizations that came together to agree on a plan forward in support of both the Vernon Township Rec Department and Maple Grange Park. I understand the Town Council's concerns around the cost of doing both fields in the same year and wanted to explore the option of doing only a single field now and then a second field in a couple of years. And while in theory, I think most would agree this seems like a viable option, practically and financially, it does not make the most sense. Due to the layout of the park and the close proximity of the two fields, it would be very difficult to access the second field in the 2 years without damaging whichever field is replaced first. In addition, there is a cost savings in doing both fields at the same time, not to mention the money that is saved in not having to continually maintain and test for 2 years the fields that are not replaced. And trying to repair sections of the field could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars just to buy us a few more years. I agree with the Town Council that the test reports on the playability of the fields can be open to interpretation. However, the town engineer and Pinnacle Risk Solutions do agree that the risk is too high to continue on these fields in their current condition. The expected life expectancy of the turf fields is 10 years. With the upkeep the town performed, they were able to extend that life by 4 years. They've already stretched the life they could out of these fields. Should the Town Council approve the funds to replace the turf fields, the youth organizations are prepared to support the future maintenance and life of Maple Grange Park. All of the youth organizations have agreed to be more flexible in our respective schedules to release our permitted time should an outside organization be interested in renting the field at a cost. The PAL is willing to create a separate Maple Grange fund for all the monies raised towards future replacement of the fields. And in addition, a committee will be created to oversee the many, many fundraising ideas that have been discussed. We'll be looking into obtaining monies from sponsors, both locally and statewide, and we believe we could be eligible for some grant monies that could be used for our park. All 5 of the town's major youth organizations, football and cheer, soccer, softball, baseball, and the PAL, which includes lacrosse, have committed to explore any and all opportunities to raise funds for the future of our fields. Obviously, there's not much we can do about the money presently needed. If we could raise $1 million in 2 months, we would have done that already. We, just like you, cannot be held responsible for the decisions or lack of planning from 2005 when the park was first put in. We can only move forward and get a solution for the issue in front of us. I'm sure everyone in this room would like to see their taxes lowered, as we are all looking to save money. But anyone who thinks their property value won't decrease should the park have to close is clearly fooling themselves. With money for the deposit for the field replacement already approved in the town's budget, we are asking you to please pass the ordinance tonight to approve the remaining funds needed to replace these fields. For anyone that attended the last meeting, we saw a long line of individuals, some with children currently in town and some whose children were grown and have moved, all with a story about how Maple Grange Park impacted them. Many individuals have already reached out offering to volunteer on the committee to raise funds for the continued support of Maple Grange Park so that we are not in the same position 10 to 15 years from now. We are trying to do our part to keep the park open, and we implore the council to help us. In response to the presentation that was just made, I know that there's additional documentation from Sports Care that lowers the GMAX number from 200 to 160 as what is considered the safe number. And yes, while the numbers may average in some fields below 160, there are clear spots that are above 160. The town engineer has confirmed the fields, especially the end caps of the field, are unsafe to play. And all the analysis done by the town have come to the same conclusion. If the fields are not replaced, they will be closed, and therefore leaving us another section of town that is closed to become another eyesore. At the end of the day, we've already extended the life of these fields by 4 years. No amount of continued maintenance will allow us to keep these fields open. We have trained the members of the Vernon Township DPW to perform regular maintenance on these fields and allowed us to get these 4 years. I wonder in Montclair, the 2 years that they have kept their field open, was that 2 years past the 10-year already lifespan? Thank you.
Council President, council members, my name is Tom Nutelski. I'll give the address of my business, 17 Plains Road. That's for Harold E. Pello and Associates. I work for Corey Stoner, who's your township engineer, and I know that he's been referenced a couple times tonight. And I just wanted to throw out some more information to you based upon our analysis. I know the GMAX display that we had in the reports, that is a vital piece of information to determine whether a field is suitable or not. One thing I just want to advise the council on, well, 2 things. One, that 200, less than 200 level, that's for serious injury. The synthetic, let me just make sure I have the right name of our, I'm sorry?
Synthetic turf
yes,
council.
they utilize 165 as their optimum number for field use. So that is a number that maybe we should be using instead of the 200. Be that as it may, what I want to advise the council is that when these fields were installed 14 years ago, the blades that are utilized in this type of field are 2 inches long, approximately 50 millimeters. What we see now is a degradation of that film over the number of years based upon UV rays. Basically, if you think of a piece of plastic and you can leave it out and it gets brittle and you bend it back and forth and it gets a little white, it starts to get brittle and break apart. The top edges of that, of all those blades that's on that field, that's what's happening over these number of years. The UV light actually breaks down the top of the filament, and those top filaments start to break apart. And that 2-inch filament now is getting shorter and shorter and shorter over time. When this was first designed, and as per specification, The filament is 2 inches. The infill, that rubber, that black pellet stuff that you see in there, is a half inch below that. So you have an inch and a half of protective rubber for impact absorption. What's happening now, and as part of the care of the field, and you see this in 2016, over time that rubber compacts and it gets to a point where these GMAC tests bring it to an unacceptable level. So what you have to do is you have to fluff it up. Bring it up a little bit, make it so that it's a little more cushioning, kind of like your pillow at home. You want to fluff it up. Well, what we find out is as that filament gets shorter and shorter, when you fluff up that inch and a half or try to get that higher, now it's right at the surface, and you actually can see that. And I know that one council member did mention when you look at the field, it is black on top. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be green on top. Part of that structure is not supposed to have that black all the way at the top. So what was done as part of the maintenance is a portion of that protective rubber, that 1.5 inches, was now removed. There was a bunch of that removed. So now it's a thinner, although fluffier, level of compaction protection. That's what you're seeing at the field now. And again, those filaments, that UV, everything is breaking that down more and more, and that's what you can expect without replacement of the field. That's why, in concert with the GMAC results, looking at the structure and the nature of the field as it is now, and as it was when it was installed, we feel that replacement is necessary from an engineering standpoint. From a risk assessment, I won't offer my opinion on that, but I do know when you have that rubber so high, it's meant to be 1.5 inches lower. The blades that come up not for impact, this is a hard floor, there's a high impact on this, but there's some friction to it. I can move laterally. Once you get that rubber film a little higher, now that top layer isn't as structurally firm, and there might be slippage. There might be that lateral cutting ability that the GMAX doesn't take into consideration. That's another reason why we think these fields should be replaced, because that rubber is so high. If we take more rubber out, that's less of a thickness of rubber for impact protection. And we're talking about elbows, knees, heads. I thought it was an interesting idea. If I use the analogy of bridges, when the superstructure of a bridge decays and it fails, you close the bridge. You don't use it anymore. And I believe the councilwoman had a mention about different sports using it. If the superstructure is to a point where it doesn't work properly anymore, you put lighter trucks on it. Similar to what you're asking about the field and the type of people that might be able to use it. The one thing I do want to mention, though, is, again, as that compacted layer gets less and less, even 3rd and 4th grade athletes are going to fall, and it's the head protection that's the most important there. So that's why we want to keep that rubber thickness as much as possible. But again, from our engineering standpoint, our engineering opinion, we believe and we feel strongly that these fields have to be replaced. They are not up to the specifications of the original installation, and further impacting that rubber thickness will have a great impact going forward with the use of the fields. So that's what I just wanted to offer in terms of our engineering opinion. Thank you.
I'm Lara O'Toole. First, I want to say good evening to the council. Thank you for opening the meeting to the public. I am going into my senior year at Vernon Township High School, and I am a 3-season varsity athlete. And since I'm a senior, I'm going into my final season as a varsity girls soccer player and hurdling for the indoor and outdoor varsity track teams. Fitness and a competitive nature was introduced to me at a very young age. When my family and I first moved to Vernon, I was a young 3-year-old girl. We came to Vernon for 2 main reasons: schooling and athletics. I began my journey as a soccer player that same year, where I quickly learned what work ethic, passion, and competitive greatness is. Maple Grange became a second home to me, as well as my fellow teammates, some of which are in this room. My first travel team was formed on that near side of the front field. Friendships and bonds that were formed on a turf field that can't be shown in a test result have lasted me up until now, as well as the lessons that I was taught on it as a young player. Many of my lifelong memories were made at Maple Grange. My first goal was scored at the far end of that front field. I became best friends with a few of the most important people in my life at Maple Grange. laughs, tears, love, anger, but above all, a sense of family and safety was shared at those fields. I know that not just the soccer programs will be affected by the removal of those 2 fields. I've seen young boys learn how to become quarterbacks and wide receivers, teenage girls learn how to properly handle a lacrosse stick. I've seen my own youngest brother learn how to properly hit a baseball. I've even seen an ultimate frisbee team get very, very heated over the rules of a game. But all of these programs have 2 things in common. They enjoy and love Maple Grange, and they become a family at that facility. I know what some of you may be thinking besides the results. The playground will still be there, the trail will still be there, and so will the football field. So what's the big issue? The issue to me lies under the noses of many adults and teenagers and what they don't realize is going on at those fields. The running trail is a beautiful place to walk and run, besides those fields that you may see activities going on at. I've personally been running on that trail many times, and it's a beautiful trail. But the activity that goes on under the noses of the town is quite shocking. I've seen broken, empty bottles of alcohol along the sides of the trails, burnt cigarettes. I even remember when I wasn't even age 10, I saw an old dirty needle with something God knows what's inside of it was there. By shutting down those 2 fields, it could possibly draw in more of those kinds of behavior. With the heavy population gone on those 2 front fields, it could allow more people to go and increase that behavior. The playground, it's normally heavily populated with our younger siblings at soccer or lacrosse games, so the parents can enjoy all of their children at having a good time at the beautiful facilities. If we take away those 2 fields, who knows if the playground will even be used? And sure, we have the football field, but very minimal room for the different sports programs we have to practice. This will result in less lessons being taught, less bonds being created, and most importantly, less lives being touched. I owe my success on the track and on the pitch as a varsity athlete to the time and lessons I was taught at Maple Grange. I don't know what type of athlete, or more importantly, what type of person I would be if it weren't for the time I spent at those fields. I'll leave you with this. Imagine you are a parent with children with the love of sports, a work ethic larger than life, and a passion for the sport they play. Imagine watching them grow up on the fields that we have, watching them hit milestone after milestone, like their first goal, their first game, their first celebration with their teammates that will become their best friends for the rest of their childhood. Imagine watching them grow as an athlete, but more importantly, grow as a person. Then imagine the field they grew up on and the memories with it being ripped away from them. Imagine the heartbreak in knowing they will never return to those fields to play another game. Imagine their entire childhood practically being taken away from them. Now please imagine you are that kid. If you don't want to save Maple Grange for you, then please save it for the youth of this town and the youth that's looking you up in this room right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step up?
I jotted some notes down. My name's Caroline Davies. You had presented your presentation and you mentioned the words liability, dangerous, and safety for the public. If the fields are shut down, who's going to be monitoring those fields so people aren't using those fields, going on and playing with them? And if somebody does get hurt and files a lawsuit, who's paying for that?
This isn't a question and answer, so you're here to make your statement.
Well, those are my concerns. If you shut them down, who's monitoring the fields? How are you going to keep the fields closed? Are you putting up a fence? Are you putting up tape? Is there going to be a police officer there monitoring the fields? People are going to go on those fields.
Are we closing the fields?
No, Sandy.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, that's...
And my second question, I don't know if it's going to get answered or not, but the same company that tested the fields, are they the company that's going to be doing the replacement of the fields if?
That would be a question for administration.
Okay.
And just so everybody knows, we're not the entity tasked with closing the fields. The only person that can close those fields is our mayor. Councilmember Carreri sent the mayor, you could tell, sent the mayor an email and asked him to schedule the maintenance to keep the fields open. And that was the mayor responded with a long email basically saying no. So if you'd like the fields to stay open, my opinion is even ask the mayor to schedule the maintenance. The company has sent a proposal. The town just needs to sign it and hire them as they have before to do the maintenance. So, but if you're questioning who's replacing, who the company's, that you'd have to go through administration. So, thank you.
So basically no answers.
Is there anyone else from the public that have a question?
Hi. Thank you, obviously for hearing from all of us, and I will let you know that there have been some really great people that came up and presented today.
Your name is?
My name is Jessica Swanson. I didn't have plans to stand up here tonight, but after hearing what I'm hearing, I just felt compelled to stand up and just, voice my opinion on behalf of myself, my children, family, and I'm sure many that are here tonight. So I grew up in Warwick, and when I went to buy a house in 2016, I had to make a decision. Was I going to move back to Warwick, or was I going to go to Vernon? They were the two towns that I was looking at. Obviously, Warwick puts an awful lot of money into their town. They have a beautiful town to go eat at, do different things. They just put it in a beautiful park. But to me, Vernon kind of screamed out what Warwick used to be when I grew up, which was a farm town, very family-oriented. You could bring your family, it wasn't this big showy place that Warwick was. And the fields were there. I mean, it was just unbelievable to watch. Awful lot of memories. My new husband now coaches a lacrosse team, amongst many of the other parents here as well. And the amount of pride and, growth that the children have gone through having these fields is unbelievable. I look at this town, I commute every single day, 4 hours a day. 2 hours on the way, 2 hours on the way back. Why do I keep doing it? Because of this community. People ask me at work, Jessica, why wouldn't you move down closer to work? This is crazy, you're sitting in the car this many hours. I do it because I love this area and for what this community has given. We know we have a problem with drugs in this school. We want to do whatever we can to try to keep that to a minimum. And now we're closing the one healthy thing, or potentially, or not repairing it to the right level. And I understand that you're here tonight to say keep them open because of those scores. When I hear that the blades of grass or blades are so low, what happens if one of our children falls and hits their head and gets a concussion? Or worse. I mean, I can't believe we're even debating this over $18 or maybe an additional $8 above that per family, per household. The next time somebody asks me why I stay in Vernon, I want to be able to tell them it's because of the community and what they can offer my family. We need people moving into this town. We have a main street that was built that has parking spaces and nothing else. We bring people into this town to stay at resorts, and where do they go to eat? Where I grew up, in Warwick. We have nothing left. Every single time you turn around, something is closing. We have more closed buildings here than we have open buildings. This community deserves something for their kids and a place for their kids to enjoy. There's very few areas where kids can get together and hang out. Maple Grange happens to be one of them. My kids constantly, Mom, can you drop me off at the park? So-and-so's gonna be there. Can I go? This is what we need. This is what, if you want people to continue to move here, you need to provide something for them. I find it pathetic that our most valuable thing that this town offers at this point is up for discussion to be closed. We don't have restaurants, we don't have stores, nothing like that. We give people that are coming from the city or coming from a different state great things to enjoy here in Vernon. What are we giving our kids if we close those fields? I ask you to please reconsider this and think about fixing the fields. The fields need to be fixed so that we don't deal with this. If we just repair them, and I hear you, we need to try to do this as economically as possible, but just putting a Band-Aid on it isn't going to be the answer, because we're all going to be back here next year or the following year having the same exact conversations. This town and these kids work really hard on those fields, and they deserve to have a place to go showcase their abilities. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else from the public that have any comments, would like to step forward?
Hi, my name is Tiffany Tavares. I obviously did not plan on speaking tonight, but I was standing in the back, and what caught my attention was our community guide. And right on the front, we have Maple Grange, and we have football, we have softball, we have baseball. This is the heart of Vernon, our children. And so when I was talking to my girls on the way over, I said, what's so great about the turf fields is that when other towns were canceling because their fields were saturated, we could still play. And so other towns were coming to Vernon to continue their sports. The other thing that I liked about the turf fields is that our kids have a competitive advantage. They can practice on hard, fast terrain, and they also have regular fields, so it's slower, it's softer. They're getting both. Not all towns can do that. And I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but you did a great job and you took a lot of my points. But as she said, we keep closing or vacating what used to be gems in Vernon. So as she said, the town center, it's a flop. The Poor Flats, I mean, that used to be where I used to take my younger siblings to play. It's basically like, I'm sorry, it's like a sports graveyard. And as we go around Vernon, we just keep seeing neglect. And so why do we want to stay? And so that's why I felt it was important to please take care of the one thing that you are so proud to put on this brochure to keep it going. And I understand fixed incomes and all that, but I can't imagine the property values just keep decreasing because no one will want to move here if yet we let something else go to waste. So please think of the future and not just now. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step forward?
Hi, my name is Mary Jo Paulison. Okay. Catherine Cotillo. I grew up in Vernon. This is important to present and future kids. Nicholas, I'm going to pronounce this one wrong. Zanas. The children of Vernon Township need facilities to allow active participation in sports for their physical and emotional health. Brittany Lenhart. Why get rid of the one place in town that allows many people an outlet for school and not school activities? Invest in your kids and allow them healthy outlets and invest in your town. Kathleen Peterson. The youth of Vernon needs this park to grow and play sports. How about we get Mountain Creek to pay their back taxes to ensure the youth of our town have this much needed park? The town council better wake up. Cesar Gallego. Sports are vital in childhood to learn teamwork and discipline. These are just a few people that I have gotten quotes from who also want to preserve Maple Grange. And you're looking at everybody here today. Everybody's here. All these kids are here because they want Maple Grange open. But there are also another 4,478 signatures here that want Maple Grange open. And let me tell you, it's election year. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Travis Bompelier, and it's a real shame that the flats were closed. I used to go there when I was younger, and just the thought that the field that I've been playing on since I was 4 is gonna get taken away. All that friendship, and I used to have many friends there and stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public?
Hello, my name is Ryan Lally. I'm a child of 5. Every single sibling of mine has been through at least 2 athletic programs through this town. Ms. Ohms, is that correct? Her motion to limit the usage of the fields seems practical, but is obviously not by the overwhelming presence of the children here, just in support of keeping the fields open. And this gentleman here, I don't remember your name, sir, but it's obvious that the only solution to fixing the parks is completely replacing them. My father usually says to me this statement that you could fix something temporarily, but damage it permanently. And I feel that's a presence here in this issue. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step forward?
My name is Scott Ugley. I didn't plan on standing up here, but I've heard a lot, and I see a lot of kids in this room. I am a coach of Vernon lacrosse. I coach the boys team. Boys teams wear helmets. Okay, they are up-to-date, very modern helmets, different than from what I played with in 1995. The boys have protection, but I have spent time laying over a child in our goals because I had to do a concussion protocol. Now, until you have to do a concussion protocol on a child while their parent is standing over you crying, you don't understand what's going on here. The goals on the upper field are solid rock. I'm a goalie coach, and I've played for teams, and I've coached teams. The boys have protection. There are girls lacrosse players in here. They do not wear helmets like the boys do. There are soccer players in here who do not wear helmets. When their head hits the ground, you do not understand what happens to them until you have to look at them and pray that their eyes roll back or that their legs move. Until you have to lay over a child and hope that you can pick them up before having to call an ambulance or have to turn around to their parents and say, you have to take them to the hospital, or worse could happen now. Repairing these fields, great idea, love it, it's not gonna work. You need to replace them. I'm sorry, fixing the fields, it's not gonna work. You have to replace them. There are spots in this field, that's a fancy test, that's fantastic. But until you actually are on the field and you feel the hard spots, inside of the boys' goal on the farthest field, I have felt spots that are harder than this table. Now I understand not everybody in here has kids that play on these fields, but I do. I coach my son. I've been lucky enough to coach these kids for 9 years now. We're going into our 8th grade season, and they're coming to me asking me, are we gonna be able to have a season? I tell them, at the risk of you guys, we would rather cancel the season. Now you tell the 8th grade boys or the 8th grade girls who I've been lucky enough to play with, you tell them that we're not gonna have a season because the fields are too hard. Where are they gonna practice? Where are they gonna play? When we go to other towns, they go, wow, Maple Grange, you guys got it all. No, we don't. We don't have what we used to have. When I moved here years ago, that was the shining star of this town. They didn't talk about Action Park, Mountain Creek, whatever it was called back then. They talked about Maple Grange. When we went down to Robbinsville for a tournament, they knew about our field. They knew how great it was. A complete replacement of this field will bring Vernon back to where it was. But mostly, it will protect our kids. Our children, the future of this town, we need to protect. The girls do not wear head protection. Soccer, boys and girls, they do not wear head protection. Football and boys lacrosse do. So by just repairing, we're putting, I mean, how many kids in jeopardy? I just don't understand why this is even a conversation at this point. I understand it's pretty, the parking and all these great things about walking trails, that's fantastic. But the safety of our children is at hand here. And I understand as adults, we all have our own issues, but our main priority is the safety of our children. our children, my children. He's coached many teams here. He's probably had to deal with it too. You look at a child and you hope that when they walk onto that field, when they walk off, they're in the same condition. Okay? That's what I care about. I don't care about wins and losses. I don't care about anything else other than my boys, all 20 of them. I've had most of them since they were in kindergarten. I want them to move on to the high school. I don't want them worrying about their third concussion. I don't want them worried about their first concussion, but that's what they're worried about. 8th grade boys should not be worrying about concussions. That's our job. And right now it's failing. We are failing our kids. Okay, replace the fields, bring Vernon back to where it was. I don't want to go to another town and hear them go, Maple Grange was nice. No, Maple Grange is nice. It is gorgeous, but we need to repair it. Not just for income or anything like that. The safety of our children is important. It's more important than blades of grass, stupid tests. Worry about the kids. Stop worrying about all this other stuff. Okay?
Good evening. My name is Katie O'Toole. I'm one of the executive board members for Vernon Youth Soccer. Again, wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but as I'm listening to what everything is going on here, and yes, you are saying, no, we're not closing the fields. And we have this report. Look, they're safe. A report from a company who stands to make money by you following their regularly scheduled maintenance plan. And then I listened to an engineer who clearly said to you, these fields are not safe. Now I ask you, who are you going to go with? The company that's standing to make some money off you, or the educated professional that is telling you these fields are not safe for our kids? Please, the plan is there. The sports clubs are willing to help out for future. Nothing we can do in the next 2 months. But no. If I gotta believe somebody who's telling me, I'm going with the engineer, not the company who says, pay us this and we can make it happen. Keep our kids safe.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to comment on the
Hi, my name is Tammy Witters. I didn't really plan on speaking tonight either. I just wanted to say that I feel it's incredibly short-sighted to repair these fields and allow that a child could be seriously injured on that repaired field because it met some minimum safety standard but was not truly safe. I don't know that I could sleep with myself at night if I voted against replacing these fields and a child's life is ruined as a result of that. I respect the mayor for making the difficult decision to close these unsafe fields and ask the town to replace them. And so I need to ask that we please replace these fields for the children in this town and our town.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step forward?
He didn't comment on the safety. He said he wouldn't do that. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Thank you, everybody. My name is Matthew Olak. I grew up in Vernon. When at the age of 5, I moved here in 2001. I was a soccer player throughout all my years of high school and continue on through college for intramurals. Now, I remember the exact time when Maple Grange Park opened. That was the biggest and happiest moment since I've actually moved to the town. It sparked joy across everybody here in this room. And I'm sorry, I have to ask a question. When's the last time you saw this many people come here to support such a big deal? I mean, this means so much to everybody here. This is a big topic that we can talk about. You know, the kids' safety, it's something that needs to be addressed, and it has been well addressed by our peers in this community as well. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to get to listen to everybody. Now, let's just try not to shoot ourselves in the foot here, because as a lot of people say, well, what does Vernon have to offer? We have nothing. We have to drive 45 minutes to the closest mall. We have Mountain Creek. Yes, it's great. We have Maple Grange. We need to keep that. Can you guys do the same? We need to protect our children and the future of this community. Thank you.
My name is Melanie Hart, and my comment is short and simple. You guys keep referring to the GMAX rating. So my daughter is a goalie, and the GMAX rating is the lowest in the goal area. So what is the average probability that my daughter will get hurt in that particular area? Average, right? So it's worse there, not as bad in the center. So what is the average of my daughter getting hurt compared to the kid who sits in the center and plays? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to step forward?
Hey, Mr. Shortway. So my name is Bree White. I played lacrosse since I was in 5th grade, and now I'm playing at Lock Haven University. I started my career on Maple Grange. I was lucky enough to have my sister Caitlin read my speech last time I was here because I couldn't make it. I was at work. But there was a comment that bothered me, and I'm not gonna make this long, but Mr. Shortway closed the fields for a reason, and that's to keep all of these kids safe. And if these fields don't get replaced, we're not gonna have a field to play on at all. But he should not be put to blame, or I'm not gonna say blame, but like say anything about closing them, because they need to be closed. If they're not safe to play on, no one should be playing on them. So just the comment about, talk to your mayor about closing them, he closed them for a reason, because they need to be closed. He put so much time, sweat, emotion, just for all these kids that grew up and played sports. The money that he's put into it and the time, I mean, I grew up and he's a role model. His wife, a role model. These people put so much time into these fields, there's no reason why they shouldn't be replaced. But just don't blame someone that's trying to keep the kids safe, at least.
My name's Denise Hart, and I'm going to go in a totally different direction. My daughter had April 17th ACL repair for not a related injury at our park, but at another event. The expense to us for total ACL repair, hamstring, catheter, just the hospital bill was $77,000. I have the anesthesiologist bill that came in today, which was another $6,000. I've had a number of other bills, plus her physical therapy. I'm tallying close to $100,000. Thank goodness I have insurance. It is not the greatest insurance. My out-of-pocket is extreme. I'm sorry, I don't like talking in public, so I'm shaking. That's my perspective on not fixing the fields. The reason she had an ACL repair, because she could live her whole life without an ACL, is to be able to do the cutting, which was mentioned in the engineer's report. You can't do a sports or cutting. You can walk, but you can't do sports without cutting. If your fields aren't safe, that's a future expense. And I find the report a little bit gray. To me, the information's gray because the repair, to me, seems like a Band-Aid. The patching, the $2,800, it's like putting good money over bad, if that's the right expression. I don't see the benefit of that. And based on what I heard at the last meeting for the $8 and something, everything's going up. The state is broke, the United States is broke, we're all broke. But ultimately, I still have to raise my child, they have to raise their children in a good environment. I don't like the pass the buck. I don't like the comment about the Board of Ed. I do agree that a decision was made. It was made in a safety matter. And since I'm about $100,000, looking at bills that keep coming in from 2 months ago, I think fixing the fields is an expense worth doing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Alton Ukel. I'm a freshman at Rutgers, New Brunswick. I have only one thing to say. I'm sure you guys are all wonderful people, but I'm truly disappointed with the number of councilmen and women who were earlier this meeting, tried to justify postponing replacing the fields due to a number of unfounded studies linking turf fields, which are used in almost every single country in the world, and cancer. Trying to use fear to intimidate residents is absolutely unethical. You guys have the opportunity to do something great. for the town that surely will increase your reelection chances coming this fall. Do your job, guys. Come on. It's not that hard.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Zoe Heath. I won't say anything more about the fields because everything has been said. It's about safety, it's about our community. But I do want to say that a request from the community has been made, and it is unifying our community. And the job of the council is to represent this community. A request has been made, fulfill it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Chris Hordick, Glenwood. One thing I'd like to say before you vote, and hopefully I'm the last one. The engineering firm that this town pays for, Corey Stoner's boss, is here to tell you that these fields aren't safe. Just like the lady before me said, you're here to represent the majority of the community, okay? With good conscience, you should be taking the advice of the man we pay on a daily basis to represent this town for its safety of its roads, its bridges, its fields. So when you vote, think about that. Don't think about the report of a company that can benefit financially. Think about the man we pay day in and day out to keep our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public? You usually get one shot, but I'll let you come back.
I understand that. Then I'll give my personal, Thomas G. Nutelski, 20 Westbrook Road. I just want to reiterate, the gentleman, just to correct the record, I am not Corey Stoner's boss, since this is filmed and it's he can see it tomorrow. He is my boss, so we'll just make that clear. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else? Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close the public?
Motion. Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? No. So, council?
I have a couple.
Sure.
This is the first time we've heard from Corey Stoner's associate. Was there a report sent or a letter sent that I missed?
No.
And I mean this genuinely. I hear the comments, listen to the engineer. Absolutely. I had not heard that before. We have letters, it's public record, from Corey. They were not that clear. So I'm a little confused right now.
Well,
the letters were not detailed.
They were not that detailed. That was more detailed than any letter I've seen.
right. And the other thing is, it was also somewhat of an opinion, because what happened is that's what Corey's letter was also. I mean, you don't have to come and answer, but I'm just saying is that a portion of this, I think, was brought up at some point, because the one section that was not meant is that the township can continue to loosen the black rubber in an attempt to lower the overall hardness levels. But obviously, shortening of the turf blade length will continue. That we're aware of. And I think one of the whole ideas here is to attempt, correct me if I'm wrong, I know that's fine, but it's to attempt to push some of the payments out, because it is a lot of money. We've spoken to Jennifer Hamilton about trying to stagger fields, trying to come up with some alternatives so the town is not always hit with the same thing, because as soon as they're paid off, in 2 years, $525,000 was estimated for the football field. So we're never getting out of this dilemma we're in with the safety. It's always going to be there. So the whole idea is, yes, it's great coming up with the 501(c) and trying to come up with money and trying to get, because everything is so expensive. And like I said, from the first slide with that resolution, nobody up here was against fields, but we were being portrayed as the people being against the fields. And that was absolutely the opposite, as you could see from the public documents. So, but like I said, with the engineer's report, what we have in writing is a little bit different. And that was Corey's report.
Are you amending Corey's report?
If that's a question. From an engineering opinion, I stand by the fact that shortening the blade width, okay, requiring a ½ inch of blade to stick above the field infill is going to require a thinner infill. The thinner the infill, the less shock absorption. Even if you fluff it up, it's going to settle back down, and it might, because it's an inch now, maybe you'll get a couple months, but if you fluff it up and it decays more, the grass, maybe it's going to be a month after that, and then weeks after that. It's hard to tell because I don't know the degradation process and how quickly it's going to be. But you know, a year out, it's going to be even thinner. The reason why I bring that up is in 2016, in order to get some of those original results, you had to fluff it up, but then you had to remove a bunch of it off because that blade was so short. So in discussing this with Mr. Stoner on Friday, that's exactly what we had discussed. So in my engineering opinion, that stands.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And just also for the record, is whether it is Sports Care or Harold Pello and Associates, they're both paid for their
Yes.
services.
That is correct.
So just wanted to clarify that also. And Councilmember Ohms?
Well, we used these GMAX tests for all
In
this time.
the microphone.
We've used this GMAX
Excuse
test.
me, could you please not speak?
I mean, we've depended on this GMAX test for all these years. We've depended on this GMAX test for all these years, and now we're dismissing what they're saying here. I did see, when you look at the individual areas as the goal, I mean, those parts can be replaced, I believe. And we've done it in the past.
They've done the circles. I know that they've done the circles.
Right, and they would be doing it again, correct?
Yeah, they've done those.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if we're talking, I mean, everybody uses this standard. When people play at away games, we don't know what their turf fields are. And when I said limit the use, I just wanted it used by town, not maybe renting them out to outside companies. Let just the town use it for our sports, for our children. And maybe that would slow down the composition degrading.
Or I can go here. Councilmember?
Okay. You're right. It's an election year. And I said this at the last meeting, and I'll say it again tonight. People that care about this town need to run for office, and you need to keep us accountable. What needs to happen, you heard the engineer, saddest thing I heard tonight was the fact that the kids are willing to give up time on the fields. That's the whole point of having the fields, or for the kids of Vernon. That is just beyond comparison. What has to happen is you, as the public, have to keep after everybody, whether it's the council and the mayor. If money had been put aside in the past, this wouldn't be an issue to go to bond because we'd have the money set aside for it. It needs to happen starting now that the money is there. It's the same way with the fire, EMS, any of these large capital items. We have to start saving. We all do it at home, whether we're planning a trip or whatever. We have to be accountable. You have to keep us accountable, and we as a council and mayor's office have to set aside this money. And you have to keep after us, because I've seen where I was a former town employee. Money gets stolen from one department to go to another department, and it happens, and it has to, I don't know. You just have to keep honest. And you need people that want to run to be up here, and you have to care about not just this, everything in town. You know, you can't cut the seniors for the kids and vice versa. You got to care about it all. And I think moving forward, that we need to replace these fields and start fresh and be more aggressive with our maintenance and make sure it gets done. That's all I got to say. I'm not doing it for that.
Yeah, I feel that putting a Band-Aid on these fields is a bad idea, and I will not I will not sign that. If they're not replaced, then you can close it, because they should be replaced. That's all.
Having the engineer's amended points,
In writing?
I mean, he's on camera.
Yeah.
Well, I make a motion to table the bond until we have more discussion and we get...
I can't hear you, Sandy.
Sorry. I'm very soft-spoken. I'm making a motion to table this, so with this new information and maybe some more research, we can come up with a decision we all feel good about. So I would like to table this, and that's my motion.
I'm willing to pay my $18. Excuse me, please don't speak out. Excuse me, no, please, please.
She made a motion to table the ordinance.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Well, can I comment?
You gotta.
There are other things in there.
It's gotta be a second, or if it doesn't, it fails.
Well, I have. Because there was information that was.
Can we separate the bond?
No, you cannot.
Ever?
You'd have to reintroduce it.
Well, I still say table it.
I wanted to separate it on May 13th. Something that I just wanted to bring up, and I know we have the motion on the floor, was the Pinnacle Risk Solutions, because I did find their letter to be a little troubling. And what they actually did was, and I did speak to Rich Duthie about this. What he did was he took the Synthetic Turf Council guidelines for performance, which, and what they are a self-governing body of the synthetic turf industry. They have nothing to do with sport care. So what Rich Duthie did from Pinnacle, our risk management, he thought that sports management was adopting this Turf Council's recommendation. And this Turf Council has a recommendation of 165, as opposed to the standard by ASTM. So he himself discounted his own letter. And then what I did, I took it a step further, and I asked Sport Care if they had any affiliation with this document. And pretty much he said no. I mean, he said, I don't know what the second report they're referring to is. We don't have anything that states guidelines for synthetic turf performance. He did not know what page 5, line 1 states, and that's in this document. So I just wanted to make it clear, because I had Jennifer Hamilton, I did give her this letter, and it does state some inaccuracies. But like I said, it's, and this guide, you can find this online. This was a link that was provided to us. But like I said, the risk management company themselves told us that they had this confused.
Council President? Seeing there's no second, I make a motion that we adopt 1910.
Second.
Hey, what happened to my motion? Doesn't my motion get considered?
No one.
No one seconded it.
Pardon me? No one second. Well, she held it up.
Roll call. I mean, this is to adopt?
To adopt 1910.
Just, can I ask a question? So we can't break it out?
Have to be reintroduced.
We can, well, so we can.
You can. If you break it out, you have to reintroduce the bond ordinances and start.
But the answer is we can.
You can.
So he's just saying we have to reintroduce. So if you're looking to break it out, yes, we can. And we would have to reintroduce. And that's something that we can do, if that's what you would like to do. So to say we can't is not.
So what are you saying? Break it out and vote on all the other items and
I think
vote
what
separately?
Councilmember Carreri would
It
like
would
is
delay-
he'd like
it
more
would-
information on the fact of what the engineering
Well, that's what I'm saying,
firm is
table
bringing
it.
forward.
Why,
But we
what, you saying breaking it out, then table it?
If you break
wanna
it
give
out, you
time?
can't vote on either one tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
They both have to be reintroduced.
well, then let's vote. Forget I said it.
So now what are we voting on?
Well, we have a motion
Yeah.
and a second on, so if you'd like to break it out, we have a motion and a second on whether or not to introduce. You can vote.
To adopt.
To adopt, sorry. You can vote for or against to adopt, then you can in fact or make a motion to separate it and bring it back for reintroduction. It's whatever the council's desire is. You know, that's, so.
So you're voting to either adopt or break it apart?
We can vote to adopt, because now we have a motion and a second, so we have to vote whether or not to adopt. You can vote for or against. If it fails, you can then make a motion to separate it out, and we would have to reintroduce.
Are we going to delay everything in 1910?
Everything would be delayed.
Including the live scan and other
That's
stuff, which is
also
my concern.
Yes.
the fire department air packs and
Yes.
everything else.
And I made the recommendation on May 13th, and no one, and that was on May 13th, I made that recommendation. I said, let's separate it out so we can move ahead with everything else and deal with the turf
Well,
fields.
being that didn't happen, I have a motion and a second on the floor for introduction,
For adoption.
for adoption.
So, roll call.
Councilmember Owens?
No.
Councilmember Carreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
No.
Motion does not pass to adopt ordinance 1910.
Do you have another motion?
So now we are going to
Motion
make
to
a
separate?
motion to separate it.
How are you separating it?
The turf field.
Turf field alone? And then the rest of the items.
Can you please call the police? Please call the police to come up.
So we can table it and take more time.
Is this the button? Now it's another 2 months. Is
Yes.
the button?
Yeah.
They're going to close anyway.
No, I'm talking about the air packs.
Please refrain from
Live
calling
scan for
out
the
the
police.
council
Oh,
not
oh.
completing their business on this matter. Oh, well.
I don't think,
That's my,
that's what,
I can't vote against that.
No?
Please refrain from calling out to the council to please complete its business.
so now we have to make a motion to separate it out, but we can still make that fail. If you three don't want to do it. And then we got nothing.
I'm not concerned about the fields. I'm concerned about the live scan and the air packs. And then it would have to be another 4 weeks. Was it 4 week waiting period between the 2 months? We should have done that earlier than I think.
Are the police coming?
I have no idea.
So, let's carry on. So if we make, if we.
So if you're going to, we're going to continue with our meeting, so if you'd like to stay, please do. Then. Where are the police?
According to this, the season's closed now,
No,
right?
we're going to continue with the
So
meeting.
no one's playing, correct?
Right.
So what starts up in October?
Just sit, don't leave. Just sit. Refuse to leave.
He's there, there's one.
I say, I make a motion to end this meeting.
I'm going to make a
I make
motion
making a motion to end the meeting.
I'm going to make a motion to
Motion to end the
adjourn.
meeting.
Adjourn the meeting? Yes, I'm
Yes.
making a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment.
I made the motion.
Is all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
No.
So we have
No?
3,
No.
2 for an adjournment. Motion carries.
No, no.
No,
It's
we
the other
didn't. We
way.
didn't. Sandy made the motion.
Only 2 voted affirmatively.
Okay.
They're leaving.
Only one. But- So we'll continue the meeting now. Thank you. So next, we will move on to proclamations.
What happens with 1910?
It failed.
It failed.
Didn't pass.
Are we going to readdress it at the,
Can we
I'm going to move on with the meeting.
Can we separate it out now? Or
You have to make a motion.
Yeah, I think you have to make a motion to separate that.
You have to reintroduce a bond ordinance in whatever increments and amounts you want.
Wait, what was that, Mr. Zawinski?
You have to reintroduce the bond ordinance.
So we need the actual breakdown again before we can do anything.
How are you going
You
to break it?
can't split it up and,
Well, what are the 2 bond ordinances being introduced at? That's what you need to know.
well, we could do that right now, though.
Sure.
And then introduce separately or just one or the other. So let's vote on that right now so we can get the ball going.
I'm not a council person.
Oh, okay. So my suggestion is, let's vote to break them up right now, so we can reintroduce the big bond with all the items for the fire department, and either reintroduce the second one, table it, or give us more time, but we can go forward with the air packs and everything the ambulance needs, fire needs. So that,
Is that a motion?
so that would be my motion.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to break the ordinance apart, and you have one bond ordinance for just the fields and a second bond ordinance for everything else pending further research.
Yes.
Are they being, just to clarify, are they being introduced tonight 2 separate bond ordinances that will be adopted at the next meeting? Or are you introducing one and not the other?
Well,
Well, we should introduce them both,
And then
because
we
what we
could-
were pending, it was pending further information from the engineers.
okay, yes, I think that would be a good idea.
So you're introducing 2 separate bond ordinances, one with the field, one without the field.
Okay, so the next, so 1910 would be which number?
Would be all of the items.
1910 is all items, and then we're going to assign number 19. I think 15 is my next available number.
It'd be 1915 and 1916.
Do we want to continue with 1910 or just make it?
1910 failed, so I'd make it a new one.
Okay, so 1915 is all items.
Except for the field.
1916 is just the field.
So 1915 includes the air packs and
Yes.
live
Yeah.
scan. Okay.
And then we need some motion to introduce. So we have a motion right now to split them. I need a roll call vote for that if we're prepared, unless you want to continue to discuss.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
I'm sorry, but it's
my
not open to
understanding-
the, it's not open.
I'm not the public. It's my
Yeah, you
understanding
are.
that you can't actually split the bond ordinance because it needs to be completely redone.
They
As
do.
far as debt and the average useful life, you can't just like split it on the spot because the authorizations wouldn't be the same.
I don't know that to be the case or not to be the case. As I understand it, there's a motion to split to introduce 2 separate bond ordinances, to introduce one bond ordinance for everything except the fields, and a separate bond ordinance to introduce bonding for the fields. Obviously, this will need to be provided to bond counsel for them to give their opinion as to whether this cannot be done or can be done. As far as 1910 goes, the bond ordinance failed. 1910 failed. It didn't have the required votes.
Correct. My concern was just that it goes to bond counsel because the supplemental debt statements need to be filed before it's actually introduced.
It should go to bond counsel.
Okay.
All right, so it has to go to bond council and be done again. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, so we can't do anything with it tonight.
Probably not. What you could do is refer to bond counsel to be split and have them provide the appropriate ordinances if that's what the council desires.
However you say it has to be done.
Well, however you say.
Am I doing a roll call?
Sure, yes.
And the
Yes.
roll, I'm sorry, you roll
Why
call?
don't we roll call now?
To split.
To split.
What's the question on the table we're voting?
To split.
To split, okay.
Into two different
Yep.
ordinances and have bond, and direct bond counsel to draft it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yes.
Motion and a second.
Motion?
Second?
Roll call. Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
No.
Councilmember Allberger?
No.
President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to split the ordinance into two and have bond counsel draft the appropriate documents. Excuse me, I have a quick question. My public comment has ended.
Yeah. Gotta wait till the next, open to the public.
Sure. I recommended that a while ago. So we're done with the bond. Did you want to take a recess? Motion to take a recess, 5-minute recess?
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're gonna, motion to go back into public, regular session? Yes.
Okay. And we're back.
Yeah.
So, huh?
Want to do a motion and all in favor?
Yeah, all in favor?
Motion to return from recess.
Motion.
And second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Proclamation for Pride Month, whereas the Township of Vernon has a diverse LGBT and Q community and is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for all people in the community, and whereas many of the residents, township employees, students, visitors, and business owners within the Township of Vernon who contribute to the enrichment of our community are part of the LGBTQ community, and whereas June has become a symbolic month in which the LGBTQ community and its supporters come together in various celebrations of pride, and whereas events are held annually to recognize and celebrate the diversity of the community, and whereas by protecting the rights of every individual, we enhance the value of our entire society, and whereas this is the 50th anniversary of the movement toward LGBTQ rights, which began on June 28, 1969, at the Stonewall Inn in New York City. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Township of Vernon do hereby proclaim June 2019 as Pride Month in Vernon Township, given under my hand in these free United States in the Township of Vernon on this 24th day of June 2019, and to which I have caused the seal of the Township of Vernon to be affixed, and have made this proclamation public, from Harry J. Shortway, Mayor, and Gene Murphy, Council President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'd just like to acknowledge that June is Brain Awareness Month, Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, and come November is also Alzheimer's Month, so we'll be reading a proclamation at that time. Next, we move on to our public comments, and this is the public comments that's on our agenda. That's for agenda items only, so if you would like to come forward, have any comments on agenda items, you have 3 minutes. Please, may I have a motion to open?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If there's anyone from the public that would like to step forward, please do so. Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to adopt the following minutes? Special meeting minutes of June 12th.
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Or roll call, rather.
Councilmember Holmes?
Abstain.
Councilmember Ferreri?
Abstain.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt.
Next, we have an ordinance for discussion. Ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 87 of the Municipal Code of the Township of Vernon entitled Personnel Policies to create an anti-nepotism ordinance. Do council members have any questions on the proposed ordinance that was brought forward?
Yeah, I just have a question. So I get nepotism is family, cronyism is,
Cronyism is different, that's,
yeah, what's the definition of cronyism?
cronyism is usually friends.
Mm-hmm, okay. So according to this, then, so somebody, just so people know what's in this, because I don't think this was online. So somebody that's been in public office can't work for the town for 4 years?
No, I don't think that's what this, what provision are you referring to? A, right? Which
A,
section?
elected officials. No elected official of the Township of Vernon
Oh,
shall
can
be-
work within Vernon?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's correct.
No,
I
work
thought you
in
meant
general?
I thought you meant a different municipality.
Okay, so that's that. So you can't have public office and work for the town, so that's in there. I agree with that. Any relative, any elected official of the Township of Vernon shall be considered. I'm just reading off the elements of this anti-nepotism ordinance. So the highlights. So if somebody is an elected official, they can't work for the town within 4 years of holding office. You cannot be an elected official and work for the town. No person who is a relative of any elected official of the township shall be considered for employment.
This does not affect any current employees.
So anyone currently employed would be grandfathered in.
Correct.
Have you looked up any other, Sandy, that you may have seen anyplace else?
Well, this follows the state, from what I see with the state. But I do have some questions, which I'll probably contact you and talk about. The
You mean
lawyer.
contact the
Okay.
attorney prior
Sure.
to?
Right,
Not a
prior to
problem.
putting this on the
Okay,
agenda.
sure.
Next, we have for discussion is a resolution authorizing an agreement with the Conservation Advising Services for open space consulting. And
Well, I'm not in agreement with this. I'll say that right out the bat. This is the same company, I guess, is an offshoot of Greener Than Design.
Yep, I can't hear you.
This is an offshoot of Greener Than Design, or Greener by Design. Now, I thought they were doing some of this stuff that's listed in here.
And what is the goal of this, Mayor? Is it to pretty much have this company research open space properties to be able to purchase out of our open space fund?
As you are the Open Space Committee, if you need advisory, you have someone that, you're not making one lump payment of $15,000, you pay as you go. So if you have questions, you need consulting, you have someone.
Well,
So I thought this was originally in his Greener by Design.
That contract expired in April.
Okay.
So this doesn't change the relationship we already have or had with Bob? Denise?
No, this is Bob's own company, he's not part of, he may be part of Greener by Design, but this is his own company. So he's offering his services on an hourly rate as needed.
Oh, it's just as an hourly rate,
Yes, I believe it's,
not to exceed $8,000.
right. We've been paying for years over $12,000 a year, right up front, whether we use them or not.
any other questions, comments? Next, we move on to our consent agenda. Resolution 19-138. This is to renew the liquor licenses that have been approved by the state and do not need a special ruling for the 2019-2020 season. Resolution 19-139. This is to authorize the vendor for the public auction sale of municipal property. Resolution 19-140. This is to appoint Joe Tadrick to the Land Use Board. Resolutions 141 through 19141 through 19144 are to refund various tax overpayments. Resolution 19145, this authorizes the Drive Sober Grant Program. Resolution 19146 and 19147 authorizes fireworks for the Fire Department and Highland Lakes Country Club. We will be separating out resolutions 19146 and 19147. So may I have a motion to adopt resolutions 19138 through 19145?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolutions 19138 through 143.
Now may I have a motion to adopt resolutions 19146 and 19147?
Motion.
May I have a second? Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Abstain.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt 19146 and 147.
Next, we have the 2019 annual audit. If our CFO has any comments, if you'd like to step forward.
I don't have any specific comments, but I wasn't sure if you had any questions that I might be able to address. I did speak with Bill Schroeder, our auditor. He decided he didn't want to come tonight unless you guys have specific comments that he might be able to address for you.
Does anybody have any comments on the audit?
No.
No, not at this time.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 19149?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 19149.
Resolution 19150, it's a corrective action plan for the 2018 audit. Pursuant to state fiscal affairs law, the CFO is to prepare a action plan for all findings. This resolution approves the corrective action plan as submitted by the CFO. May I have a motion to adopt resolution 19150?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt 19150.
Introduction of Ordinance 1913, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, and State of New Jersey, amending certain portions of Chapter 99 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Section 50 entitled Hiring of Off-Duty Police Officers of the Township Code. This amends the Township Code regarding the Police Department off-duty assignments. May I have a motion to introduce Ordinance 1913 with a public hearing to be held on July 8th, 2019?
Motion.
I have a first and a second. Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1913 with public hearing to be held on July 8th.
Ordinance 1914, capital ordinance providing for Veterans Memorial Park improvements by the Township of Vernon and the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating therefore the sum of $15,000 and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from the capital improvement fund of the township. This is for money moved during the budget process for the baseball fields. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
To introduce ordinance 1914 with a public hearing on July 8th, 2019. Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Carries to introduce ordinance 1914 with public hearing on July 8th.
Okay. Ordinance 1907, which is the second reading. This ordinance carried from April 23rd. The township is working with the county to get the approvals needed for the county road limiting the turn. Until we have approval of the same, the county, we will be tabling the ordinance. May I have a motion to table ordinance 1907 until July 22nd?
Motion.
May I have a second? I'll second it. Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn ordinance 1907 to July 22nd.
Ordinance 1911, capital ordinance providing for various improvements of the Township of Vernon, the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating therefore the sum of $292,800 and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from this capital improvement fund and capital fund balance of the township. This authorizes funds for various capital items. May I have a motion to open to the public for ordinance 1911?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to step forward, have any comments on ordinance 1911? Please do. Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close for ordinance 1911?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1911?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 1911.
Ordinance 1912. The township is awaiting a document from the county before this is adopted. We will have the public hearing once the document is received. May I have a motion to table ordinance 1912 until July 8th, when we have hopefully received all the information from the county?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahlberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to table ordinance 1912 till July 8th.
Next, we have our second set of public comments. If anyone from the public have any comments, you could step forward. You have 3 minutes. May I have a motion to open?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Hi, I'm Lisa Anderson from Glenwood. I'd just like to thank the council and the mayor and Vernon for the proclamation for Pride Month. We think it's the first time a town in Sussex County has issued a proclamation for Pride Month, so we really appreciate it. And I appreciate it because my daughter and her wife can come home and feel safe and protected, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that have any comments? Please step forward. Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have our mayoral appointments. Mr. Mayor?
Martin O'Donnell, Economic Development Advisory Committee. I will be appointing.
Thank you. And is Mr. Tadrick still here? I was going to say, I didn't know if you were prepared to, I think you may have
I
left.
may have left. I'll swear him in another time.
Now the mayor's report.
To say the least, I'm disappointed that the bond wasn't passed tonight, but I want to explain for those who don't know me why I will be making the decision that I'm going to make about the fields. I played youth, high school, collegiate sports. I've been a coach for approximately 40 years, from youth, high school, and even at times college levels. I've had tournament teams from Florida to Western Pennsylvania to Massachusetts I've coached. I've been on hundreds of fields. As an athlete, I fell on worn turf and tore my ACL. Later on, I tripped at work, compounded that initial injury, and it cost me my police career. I now, in September, had a replacement of a total knee that started with falling on worn turf. So on July 1st, I will be closing those 2 fields to permitted use. We will not issue permits. The liability to the town it's there. Our engineers cannot defend us. And you know, if someone's hurt, there's going to be lawsuits. And even if we win, it is going to cost money. But more importantly than money is the health and the well-being, not just of the adults, but more importantly, it is of the children. We talked a lot about hardness. If we fall down and fracture an elbow or a head, a concussion. But I also am afraid of the lower extremities because I've had experience it. I've seen other athletes experience it. So it will be closed to permitted use. You can still walk on them. We'll have signs there, use them at your own risk, but I will not not expose a child, a youth, a collegiate player to the potential of injury. That's why I wanted them replaced. Because your safety comes first. I said it when I ran for mayor. Safety was my biggest consideration, and it is a very, very difficult choice to make. But when it comes to the safety, and I coached the youth team again this year, I will not expose any of our kids to any potential injury. I do not want them to have to go the route that I went. So that being said, that is the truth. You could still walk the trails, the park's still gonna be there. By splitting this bond up, it'll cost the town more money. Also, there'll be even more delay, because we were intending to get you back on the fields by mid-September. I don't know when the date will be now. So that'll be my decision as long as I'm mayor. Until they're replaced, there will be no permitted use for it. That being said, I just want to say a couple of good things. It's, you know, a really disappointing meeting. The Caballeros from Hawthorne did their final practice this weekend, and they gave a heartfelt thank you to the council, the township, the people that came out to see them. So hopefully they'll be back next year. They practice for almost a month on the weekends. It's really something to see a drum and bugle corps like the Hawthorne Caballeros. Also, good news in the Herald News about our young artists on Maple Grange this Saturday. When we had the Sidewalk Chalk Art Festival, thank you to our Recreation Committee. They, again, do more and more outstanding programs at a very little budget, and they're there early in the morning. They're setting this up, and they really do a great job, and it is one of the bright points of this town is our volunteers and what they do for the residents here. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council comments. Councilmember Allberger.
I don't even know where to start. I'm a member of the Vernon Fire Department, and this July 6th will be the annual fireworks for Highland Lakes and Vernon Fire Department. This is a fundraiser, and we use the money to buy the following year's show. So, as the old saying goes, help us to help you. Enjoy the show, come out, and it would be appreciated for more attendance. And everybody have a safe 4th. That's it.
I have no comment.
Councilmember Owens.
No comment.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Yes, thank you. Just a note, if you pay attention to the scanner apps or anything regarding our emergency services, it felt like last week was a little busier than usual, and it was. There were multiple calls with more than one ambulance called, so I just wanted to say thank you to our first responders and keep them in mind as you go about your day. Pull off to the side, obviously, when you see them rushing somewhere, and we're all grateful. And I want to clear something up. I brought up the possible toxicity of the fields, not to be fear-mongering, but because my 8-year-old boys play on the fields and I coach on the fields. So I research every issue. And it's not a reason to, you know, vote one way or another. It's just something that I hope the general public is aware of and studies. So I apologize if it came across as me trying to fear-monger. That wasn't my intention. Thank you.
But that is a concern.
It's a concern to watch.
Absolutely.
And my last note, what I would like to say is that a couple of the council members, Councilmember Carreri and I, we did a lot of investigation, and we were actually attempting to propose replacing one of the fields in an attempt to start staggering them. The mayor was not in favor of that, and that was the initial proposal. That's what we were attempting to do. But the council was shut down, not wanting to do that, and here we are. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Wait, I don't want to.
We're done.
Question. So if